At Yale Law School in 1970, Hillary Rodham helped found the Yale Review of Law and Social Action. The second issue devoted 50 pages to the murder trial of Black Panther Lonnie McLucas. Some of the illustrations depict policemen as pigs. One drawing shows a decapitated and dismembered pig squealing in agony, and another one described them as, quote, a low-natured beast that has no regard for law, justice, or the rights of people, a creature that bites the hand that feeds it, a foul, depraved traducer, usually found masquerading as the victim of an unprovoked attack, unquote. Other articles encouraged experimentation with drugs, sex, and individual lifestyles. In Bill Clinton's Arkansas, some 2 million people remained among the poorest in the nation. Their average yearly income was less than the $20,000 annual fees at the Little Rock Country Club. Arkansas families earning less than $9,000 a year paid nearly 4 times more state tax proportionately than families making in excess of $600,000. Arkansas remained almost last in the United States in per capita expenditure for education, in the percentage of its students completing high school, and the proportion of its citizens with college degrees. Nowhere in America is the range so great as in Arkansas, wrote the Arkansas Times in 1992, from the multi-billionaire status of the Walmart Waltons to the abject poverty of the Delta region, where Lee County is listed as one of the 10 poorest counties in the entire nation. Infant mortality there is twice the national average, and 2/3 of all children never graduate from high school.
Larry, did you fear Bill Clinton?
Personally, no, I did not. After I got to know the man, if it came to a confrontation between a policeman and Bill Clinton would always back down. No, I was not physically afraid of Bill Clinton. I was afraid of his power.
Larry, were you afraid of Bill Clinton's friends?
You betcha. You betcha. He had some people that was quite scary, yes.
She harbors a deeply cynical view of the traditional family and thinks kids should be able to sue their parents to resolve family arguments. In an article, Children Under the Law, she equates the legal minority status of children to slavery and thinks married women should be emancipated. She even equates the family itself with slavery and the Indian reservation system. She served in 1987-88 as director and chair of the board of directors of the New World Foundation. In 1987, Hillary and the New World gave $15,000 to the National Lawyers Guild, which was founded as an adjunct to the American Communist Party. In 1988, she gave $5,000 to the Committee in Support of the People of El Salvador, which was a support group for the communist guerrillas in El Salvador. The list goes on and on, to include scores of other more obscure but equally radical left-wing groups. Less than 2 months after launching Whitewater, Hillary Rodham began trading in the cattle futures market. She was allowed to open her account with a $1,000 deposit, rather than the $12,000 that mercantile exchange rules required. On October 11, 1978, her first transaction netted, within days, a $5,300 gain. Within a week, Hillary had won another $7,800 and $7,200 more only days after that. When she got out of the market in July 1979, her $1,000 investment had mushroomed into $100,000. Her 10,000% return on her investment was more than 5 times the rate of profit made by investors that had bought when she did and sold at the peak of the market during the same period. One commodities analyst said that the odds against such prescience and mastery trading would have been about the same as those of finding the Dead Sea Scrolls on the steps of the State House in Little Rock. In 1995, economists at Auburn and North Florida universities ran a computer statistical model of the First Lady's trades for publication in the Journal of Economics and Statistics. They concluded that the probability of Hillary Rodham's having made her trades legitimately was less than 1 in 250 million. Her broker, Robert Bone, was eventually given a 3-year suspension, one of the most severe sanctions short of criminal prosecution. Mena, Arkansas is tucked away in the remote Ouachita Mountains of western Arkansas. It became the site of one of the most enduring conspiracy theories of the late 20th century. The core allegation is that the airport was used to transport weapons to the Nicaraguan Contras, with collusion and cover-up implicating Governor Bill Clinton. It was a multi-billion-dollar gun-running, drug smuggling, and money laundering operation. Barry Seal was a legend in the cocaine trade. His drug runs were flown in from Latin America, loads averaging 300 pounds of cocaine and worth at least tens of millions of dollars, and parachuted onto remote sites in Arkansas. By the sheer magnitude of the drugs and money its flights generated, tiny Mena, Arkansas became, in the 1980s, one of the world centers of the narcotics trade and the base of what many believed was the single largest cocaine smuggling operation in U.S. history. Larry Douglas Brown was Bill Clinton's favorite among the troopers assigned as his personal bodyguards. Brown gave hundreds of pages of testimony under oath and supporting documentation that the governor had clearly been aware of the arms and drug running out of Mena as early as 1984. The state trooper watched in despair while the governor did nothing about it. In October of 1984, Barry Seal and Brown had lunch at Cajun's Wharf in Little Rock, a popular restaurant in the Arkansas River bottoms. In conversations over the next few weeks, Seal casually referred to Clinton as the Gov and acted like he knew the governor, Brown recalled. By the summer of 1985, Seal became a scapegoat and was sentenced to a halfway house in Baton Rouge. It was there that assassins found him and gunned him down in his white Cadillac on a rainy February night in 1986.
Mr. Free, over 65 people have invoked the Fifth Amendment or fled the country in the course of the committee's investigation. Have you ever experienced so many unavailable witnesses in any matter in which you've prosecuted or in which you've been involved?
Actually, I have.
You have? Give me a rundown on that real quickly.
I spent about 16 years doing organized crime cases in New York City, and many people were frequently unavailable.
So was that the only time you experienced something like that?
Went on for quite a while.
So the only time that you experienced anything like this was when you were investigating an organized crime syndicate?
On Monday, July 19, 1993, President Clinton called FBI Director William Sessions to tell him that he was dismissed. It would be the first time in our nation's history that a president had fired an FBI director. He called a second time a few minutes later. The president seemed to be in a hurry. Time was of the essence. Sessions was to leave the Hoover building effective immediately. The next day, Vince Foster's body was found in Fort Marcy Park, dead from a gunshot wound to the head. Under the assassination statute, the FBI would have been compelled by law to take over the case if there was any question that it might have been a homicide. But with the firing of its director, the FBI was in turmoil, and the Park Police became the lead agency in charge. The Park Service had neither the depth nor the experience to investigate a case of this magnitude, which led many to ponder the question, was it the intention of the White House to limit the scope of the investigation? Vince Foster had been a close friend of Bill Clinton's in their boyhood town of Hope, Arkansas. As Deputy White House Counsel for the Clinton administration, Foster became the highest-ranking U.S. government official to die under mysterious circumstances since President John F. Kennedy. He, more than anyone else, knew the financial secrets of both the campaign of 1992 and the Clinton presidency, just as he knew the secrets of the Rose Law Firm and of Hillary Rodham Clinton's business and financial dealings over the previous decade, dealings that would become the subject of numerous investigations. Associate Independent Counsel Mikel Rodriguez was not a conservative. Indeed, when he arrived from California with his ponytail, his earring, and his leather jacket, there were some that said Kenneth Starr had gone too far in his efforts to recruit liberal Democrats and ethnic minorities to his team. Rodriguez spent his time combing through the archive of documents in the Foster case, and he didn't like what he saw. He managed to gain access to the locked files in the office of the Independent Counsel. Hidden inside was a folder of crime scene photographs that had been deliberately withheld from the prosecutor. Among them was the original Polaroid of Foster's neck. Rodriguez went to the Smithsonian Institution for enhancement of the original. The blow-up photo revealed a dime-sized wound on the right side of Foster's neck, suggesting a gunshot fired at point-blank range into the flesh. The medical examiner at the scene was Dr. Hout. After examining Foster's body, he made reference to a wound on Foster's neck on page 2 of his report. This finding was in agreement with 2 of the rescue workers who testified before the Whitewater grand jury that they too saw a gunshot wound on Foster's neck. Incredibly, in the official autopsy report on Vincent Foster, a gunshot wound to the head is listed, but the wound on the neck is completely left out. The confidential witness had stopped at Fort Marcy Park and had ventured about 700 feet into the wooded groves where he spotted a body lying in the dense foliage. He looked as if he'd been dead for a long time. I mean hours, he said. The bed of dried leaves below the body had been very heavily trampled, and his hands were neatly next to his body with the palms up. He said under oath to a congressional delegation that he saw no weapon, no gun. There was nothing in Foster's hands. The sequence is crystal clear. In his notebook, Detective Rollo writes, "Dead body, Fort Marcy, warm sunny day." His handwritten notes also indicate that he called the Secret Service at the White House at 6:45 p.m. 20 minutes later at 7:05 p.m., Secret Service logs show that Patsy Thomason checked into the offices of administration where Vince Foster's office was. Foster had kept important documents on Whitewater and other matters in his safe, and a short time later, a group from the Technical Security Division was logged in with her. They were experts in locks and safes. Trooper Roger Perry was on duty at the guard shack of the Arkansas Governor's Mansion when a call came through from the White House. Trooper Larry Patterson tells the story.
I had just gotten off work, had driven from State Police Headquarters to my apartment complex. Arrived home no later than 5 p.m. When I was just inside my apartment. I had not taken off my uniform. I had not gotten a Coke or a glass of water or something out of the refrigerator. I was in my apartment looking at my mail, getting ready to undress. The phone rang. I pick it up. It's Roger Perry. He said, "Larry, you will not believe what just happened." He said, "Helen Dickey just called from the White House and said that Vince Foster had just gotten off work, walked out in the parking lot, and shot himself in the head." So this was the latest, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, Washington, D.C. time.
Perry relayed the message to Governor Jim Guy Tucker. He also called Lynn Davis, the former commander of the Arkansas State Police. 4 men in Little Rock knew about the death of Vincent Foster before 6 p.m. Washington time, at least 15 minutes before the park police discovered the body in Fort Marcy Park. President Clinton appeared on Larry King Live at 9 p.m. It was being broadcast in the library of the White House. So the White House Secret Service, Chelsea's nanny, and 3 troopers in Arkansas had known for several hours, but Bill Clinton went on Larry King as if he knew nothing of Foster's death. Over the course of several presidential administrations, valuable art was donated to the White House by prominent American artists. Before leaving the White House, Hillary shipped 70 of those pieces of art to the Presidential Library in Little Rock. And in the closing days of Bill Clinton's presidency, Hillary began shipping tens of thousands of dollars worth of furniture to her $1.7 million home in Chappaqua, New York. Brad DeLong, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Treasury during the first Clinton administration, stated that Hillary Rodham Clinton needs to be kept very far away from the White House for the rest of her life. The leftist New York Observer, who had defended the Clintons through thick and thin, wrote, quote, "It is clear that we have made a terrible mistake, for Hillary Rodham Clinton is unfit for elective office. Had she any shame, she would resign," unquote. The Clintons have applied their considerable skills to survive a series of scandals that would have paralyzed any ordinary politician and probably would have finished them off. But there is little evidence that their skills were used to benefit the American public. In her book, The Final Days, Barbara Olson wrote, "It all comes down to character. Here the gauge rests firmly on empty. According to their friends and supporters, they are cheats, users, liars, and greedy. The American public knew that the Clintons were snakes when they took them in. They cannot complain when the snakes turn out to bite."